Heavenly Father, we thank you for the day, and we thank you for your mercy, your grace, and your goodness, Father. Father, we ask you to be with each one of these that have been mentioned tonight. Father, there's families that are in sorrow. Father, we just pray that you would give them comfort. Father, for those that are sick and hurting, Father, we pray for healing. Father, we just pray that you would be with us tonight. Everything that we would discuss in this meeting would give honor and glory to you. Forgive us where we fail you. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Okay. Call the meeting to order. And just before we adopt the agenda and get started, because we do have a new member tonight, we're back full force. So just touch base with a couple things maybe about how we do kind of operate. Any speaker, of course, comes and addresses the board. We do ask those that are non-board members to hold their remarks to 5 minutes or less if possible. As board members, we are going to disagree at times, and that's fine. We all have different opinions, but we can do it in a very civil manner. And so, just speak your opinions, but let's be very conscious of other people's opinions also, okay? All right. That being said, I will call the meeting to order, and the first thing is we will adopt the agenda. Everybody's had a chance to look over it. We need a motion to adopt the agenda. Okay, Herbie makes that motion. Nicole seconds.
Did they agree to it?
All in favor? All opposed?
If you want to, you can, yeah.
I have an amendment to the agenda. We've
Okay.
got some late breaking news that Daniel office has received from the Secretary.
They have. According to those terms that we submitted to them earlier. That was it.
All right, so we'll add that to the
We
agenda.
need to talk about policy and procedure and how we're gonna do that.
So we'll just add that to the agenda. So now, all in favor of the amended agenda? All right, okay, the minutes from the last board meeting, everybody had a chance to look over the minutes. Any corrections or amendments to the minutes?
Well,
Got a motion to second, we got a second from Kagan. All in favor? Yes, unanimous.
Ever. Yeah, you said that now.
Well, just-
Just shows
it-
We're moving all over the place.
Yeah,
Mr.
we
West.
just-
Every week, we're sitting in a different seat.
That's the mouth for the city.
Wait a minute now.
Well,
The mouth
No
for the
poking,
city.
no poking
All
my
this.
face, please.
okay, we're all right.
The mouth for the city, facing all of the Lord. They've been all the time, so I've been on board.
Okay.
I've been on the board for 33 years.
We'll just go ahead tonight, but if we do assign seating, of course,
How does-
not,
We don't have to
it's not an
approve
ideal
these.
way to sit because of our situation, but
So if we'd like to discuss this, the way that we sit, some people are on camera, some people are not. So by rotating, everybody gets to have their back to the
I
audience one
got
time.
my seat, same seat. I was with city all 33 years.
Mr. White, I would never tell you you have to sit in that seat.
You better not.
okay. Let's move on with the agenda and the dockets of the claims approval or bills. I think it was somebody got it.
$4, that's correct.
We do that to keep it from being
Yeah.
late.
Yeah,
We had to pay a
Claims,
fee.
claims approval.
That's this, Herbie.
That's this one, okay.
Yeah, that's the,
It should have been,
You got it in a different
Email.
looking format in the
Yeah.
email, so.
yeah,
Okay, now I'm with you. Okay.
so it's actually 120.
Yeah, it's a little different, isn't it? Go back to this other one. I like it better.
And it is emailed out to you in advance, you know, to look over if there's any questions on it. Any questions on the documents?
And this is, Ms. Vivian, this is all three? You sent us three different ones. This was a
Yes.
culmination. Okay. Okay.
Got it.
We have to do it that way to keep the, having to pay a fee because they were late. So we have, that's why we always have some after we send them to them.
Thank you.
But we make sure you get a copy of it before.
Okay. Well, I'll entertain a motion for, to accept the documents of claims approval.
So moved.
Kagan and Nicole, second. All in favor? And that is unanimous. Okay, Mickey?
Got a couple of things for y'all tonight. 2 weeks ago, the Mississippi Arts Commission was in town, and they sent two of the representatives down. They're scouting a location where they're going to hold a art commission party, and the art commission has decided to honor Colter Fussell. She has won an award, a 9-state award, and they're going to do round-the-state events, leave Jackson, and they picked Water Valley as the first town to hold the event. And that's going to be May 18th in the 200 block of Main, 211 North Main is where it's going to be, at Yellow Run Studio. And also in town 2 weeks ago was the USDA Rural Development, John Ronzaville, and he was in town, I think just on a fact-finding mission to see how we were doing. He's heard a lot about us, and he's a presidential appointee. He runs a 100-person staff out of Jackson, and he came to Water Valley, I think, to listen and to learn. Last week, we were in Kansas City, Missouri, where the National Main Street Conference was a meeting of 1,600 downtown Main Street directors, people that have my job from around the country. We met. Water Valley was thanked at the opening plenary for its efforts in terms of historic tax credits, one of the very few towns that were thanked, in preserving the historic tax credit in the new tax bill that passed last year. Also, we presented on a panel that was about CDBG grants and how that affects downtown infrastructure. Also last week, Strong Towns, it's an organization, nationwide organization for downtown developers and historic preservationists, and Water Valley was featured on the podcast. It was a conversation between Chuck Moran and Bob Barker, who those of you who've worked with the county know who Bob is. And anyway, I heard from Bob, and apparently he thought the podcast went really well. I listened to it myself. It's 30 minutes. Normally I wouldn't suggest that you waste that amount of time, but this was a very informative podcast. And if you go to Strong Towns, it's the podcast that's up right now. It's worth a listen. 2 days to remember. May 18th is the Mississippi Arts Commission party downtown, and then June 1st is the block party for 200 block of North Main. That's what I have. Thanks, Don.
Thank you. Okay, Lee?
Thank you very much for having me again. Just wanted to ask the board to continue to remain being diligent in the enforcement of the ordinances pertaining to the abandoned vehicles, junk vehicles, burned out houses, things of that nature. We've all, I think several of you have had a conversation with. It's very important to the values of the real estate in this town and the appearance of town when people come. And I just appreciate your hard work that y'all have put into it so far and your willingness to look at it, and appreciate your continued efforts. That's all I have. Thank you very much.
Okay, Ms. Jameson is not here.
I don't see her.
If she comes in, we'll meet her later. Miss Sandra Jameson with Benny Thompson office was supposed to stop by, but evidently she stopped somewhere else. Skip on to item number 9, the Water Valley Housing Authority, the recommendation to appoint Delissa Reese to a 5-year term. Everyone have a copy of the letter? Okay. We have the letter from Johnny Hughes recommending her for to serve on their board. So, any discussion, or we have a motion to accept this recommendation? Fred makes the motion that we accept this recommendation from the Housing Authority to appoint Delissa Reeves to a 5-year term on the board. Do we have a second? Excuse me, Senator? Second. Any discussion? All in favor? Okay, the next item is the public hearing on the sewer trunk main grant project. Chris, do you want to? There you
Yes,
go.
sir.
Popping up, look at it.
Yeah, everybody else is. I thought I better get up and get it done. But back in 2016, City of Water Valley applied for a Community Development Block Grant and Appalachian Regional Commission grant. Both were funded. As a recipient of a CDBG grant, you are required to have a second public hearing to inform the public on the status of the project and just entertain any questions they might have about where it is and what's going on, those types of things. So if you don't mind, sir, I've got a sign-in sheet. If you would just take that and sign it, and here's my pen, you can pass it around. I would appreciate it. Couple quick things. In the CDBG application that was submitted, it was proposed to do approximately 2,400 linear feet of sewer trunk main replacement. There were going to be 12 manholes and, of course, reconnecting existing lines and repairing any streets that were damaged during construction. Those were the main activities. Just as of the last contractor pay estimate, which was dated March the 20th, they have done almost 2,300 linear feet of the sewer trunk main, reconnected those lines, and instead of 12 manholes, they've done 16. So that's good. You know, it's like, I guess, when you get into a house and you start digging and looking, you find things that have to be taken care of that maybe you didn't expect, but they're almost 80% done according to the pay estimate that I have. Actually, they're about 81% done. So I anticipate construction started in December. We're about 80% done now. Probably the next 30 to 60 days, we should finish up the project. The grant performance period was October 3rd, 2016 to October 3rd, 2018. So the contractor is well ahead of schedule. I don't see any reason why we can't get this project finished and closed out well before the deadline. Does anybody have any questions about it, board or public?
I think the big question on everybody's mind is, when do you think they actually do the paving and repairing the street? Have you talked with them about that?
Well, I talked to Ken Hissall today, and they were waiting on the change order. I think that the board had approved last month. I know he was on another project when I spoke to him today. I talked to MDA last week, and they said the change order will be approved, but the person that needed to sign off on that was out of the office. So I think when Ken and 4D get that, I think they're going to come back in and finish everything up. But I can't speak for them and tell you for sure. But I would like to think that they would start within the next several weeks getting that done. Because I've been out around the site and looked, and I know the roadways are a mess right now.
You don't call the payment from my list of call and my creek. Pay the front side, all I ask you do is pay for the front side. Mud, spread it all up by the building on the front side. Yeah, I would like to, you all pay it. You give me the money to have it done.
Yeah, it's money in the budget. In fact, I have a copy of it with me. Let's look real quick. How much money was actually designated for repair of the streets and whatnot? Yeah, removal of existing pavement. Yeah, now that's one item. In tearing up the streets, it was, above budget. Yeah, the hot asphalt mix, about $40,500 it looks like for about 300 tons of asphalt. I'm not an engineer, so I can't tell you how far that'll go, but that sounds like a pretty good bit to me.
That's why you gonna pay to farm my business.
Sir?
They will be paving it, but engineers said that it had to settle for, I believe, 6 to 8 weeks before they could start. If not, they would do it, they'd be gone, then it'd be on us when it settled, and, so it does have to settle. according to the.
You know, have my question. I asked that man there, will you want to pay my business back?
Are we gonna repair your street in front of your house? Is that what you were asking?
No,
the
pay
business.
my
Okay.
business. Business building on my street. I own a big on the Martin Street package store.
I don't
So-
think that'd be something that Chris could address. It would have to be the contractor himself, or Chris is, does our grants.
Was it something damaged? I mean, it was damaged during the
We
construction?
Yeah,
can, we can
it
point
was.
it out to
You
them,
want?
Yeah, you're right, though. I can't, unfortunately, I can't answer that question for you.
but
It's a question worth asking. I mean, you can definitely speak to them.
we've got several things. We've got a bank that they've got to side and some other things too, so. We'll ask them.
Is the sign-in sheet, has everybody had a, well, it's moving slowly. It's moving. If there's no other questions, I wanted to add one more thing to the public hearing.
Okay.
In the notice that ran in the paper, it mentioned the fair housing law in Mississippi. Again, as a CDBG recipient, you're required to follow the fair housing law in Mississippi, which basically says you're not going to discriminate against anyone based on color, race, gender, etc., those types of things. I brought some little brochures with me tonight, and I'm just going to leave them with you, Vivian.
Okay.
If anybody has any questions or anybody would like one of these brochures, feel free to take one with you.
We did, put that in the minutes last.
Okay, good. Good, because April is Fair Housing Month.
That's right.
And I know they want you to do everything that you can to promote fair housing.
We signed the proclamation last month.
Good. And that's all I've got for now, guys, unless y'all have any other questions.
On that.
Yes,
Stick around.
and I can sit and wait, or if you want to bring it up now, however you want to do, it's fine with me.
That's our, the board approval, we'll skip all the way down to 19 since Chris is here. And this is about the, as Mickey alluded to in his address, the Rural Business Development Grant comes to the Rural Development Authority. And we did have John Russell and Renee Crawford to meet with us, and some grant opportunities that may be ours for some different things. And Kagan, if you want to mention a few of them, and then we're going to let Chris talk about it because he could be our grant writer for these things.
So this was the rural business development grants. So these are things that for private businesses in town that need a piece of equipment, they can apply. Well, they can't apply directly for a grant. The city needs to apply on their behalf as an economic development engine. There's $500,000 every year in the state of Mississippi that's given out as grants to private business owners. And they can buy forklifts, they can buy x-ray machines, they can buy all sorts of things, but it's a pass-through grant. So the city applies on behalf of the business. And while Mr. Rounsaville was here, he said this would be a really good year. We haven't applied for these in the past because not many people have applied. The downside is the deadline is April 30th, and so this wonderful gentleman has volunteered to do all the paperwork, but the process is because the city has to apply on behalf of a business. I'm not exactly sure if you can explain what we have to do to say, we approve that our mayor can sign those grant applications with the paperwork being done by this wonderful gentleman. And then we'll find out. It's a fishing expedition, but we can't go fishing unless the board approves. If you can.
Sure, if the board would just, make a motion authorizing me to prepare and submit rural business development grant applications on behalf of the local businesses. And Kagan's already covered much of the RBDG program, but it's for businesses that have 50 or fewer employees, and they have to have not more than, say, $1 million projected or gross income in a given year. There's two different types of rural business development grants. There's the opportunity grants, and then there's the enterprise grants. What Kagan is talking about applying for are the enterprise grants that can be used for construction, equipment, those types of things. The opportunity grants are more like in technical planning and feasibility studies for economic development. But the key to all of it is it's got to be tied directly back to some type of job, creation, retention, or be able to show the potential to directly impact economic development in the city of Water Valley, Yalobusha County. I don't believe there's a resolution. I know Renee sent me by email yesterday the different attachments and forms that are required to go along with the applications. There was not, to my knowledge, I don't recall seeing a resolution. Some of their programs require that, but I think the board would be just fine authorizing me to do that, and that'll give me permission to start that process. And I think, Kagan, you said you've already been talking to some of the businesses, at least got the word out, trying to get the word out. If the rest of you could do that as well, because we do have a short turnaround time.
So I just walked up and down Main Street to see if you had $15,000 to buy something that would help your business, and I didn't run into anybody who didn't have an idea. So this would be anyone. It would be open to everybody, and then we'll let the state sort them out, but it's a lot of paperwork. So we have to allow ourselves to do this in Water Valley. Oh, so I'd make a motion that we allow this process to go forward.
We have a motion, do we have a second? Any more discussion on it? Again, this is just to allow Chris to, in our behalf, to write the grants and to deal with this. It's a good deal.
It is a great opportunity, and we don't want to leave any money sitting out there on the table that we can
Absolutely not.
potentially take a hold of, so it is a good opportunity.
Who will the business owners contact? How will they make their connection to this program?
That's a good question. Who should be can we direct business owners directly to you?
Yes.
Perfect.
Please feel free to give them my name and number. Vivian can provide
Yeah.
that contact information. Because there is a list of questions, I'm going to want them to define the project and the purpose of it and those types of things. And once I get that information back from them, I can start writing, and then I have some other documents that I'll hand off to them to be getting together in the meantime.
Do you typically have municipalities who are looking to do this for
Oh, well.
small businesses put it in the paper, or how do you get the word out?
Well, you can do it in a variety of ways. I mean, word of mouth is probably one of the most common things that I see, but the newspaper, of course, is another. And sometimes people run public service announcements and those types of things as well.
Just running so close to the deadline,
Right.
which we just found out about, so we got to push hard and fast on this.
And one thing I did learn is that this process, for any of us who own a business, we are not eligible through the municipality to apply. So there is if you can do it through another nonprofit, that would apply on your behalf. That's an option.
Yeah.
But
There's
you'll be
a
doing
lot of paperwork.
You'll be
for
doing your own
nonprofit.
paperwork in that case.
Okay, so we have a motion and we have a second. All in favor? That's unanimous. And we will get your contact information out so we can,
And thank you, and sorry.
yeah.
Absolutely. No, that's what we're here for. You use us and abuse us. And also, Mayor, if I may say
Yeah.
too, the request for cash.
Yeah,
I don't know if we covered that
we was
tonight,
gonna
too.
skip down to that too. Pull that out. Number 18. Item number 18 is what he's addressing. This is a request for cash on the sewer project and for the contractor and for engineering, and that total, so it was 88,102.37 for the contractor and 5,308 for the engineering, for a total of $93,410.37 is the cash request for the sewer project.
And I have the request for cash consolidated support sheets. I've got 2 copies of each one for me to take back and then one for the city to keep. This first one is for the Community Development Block Grant. This is request for cash number 6. As I mentioned during the public hearing, we're about 80% done. I expect we'll probably have one more request for cash after this. But this particular request is for CDBG funds in the amount of $31,060.40. And as the mayor already mentioned, there's 2 invoices. One is for engineering services, construction engineering provided by Willis Engineering, and then the other for 4D construction.
This is requesting the money to be transferred to us. It's not,
So that's a separate from the money.
it's a request for the grant money, yes. It's not the
And it takes,
final.
it's still not the final.
No.
Is that the same?
What, I missed the question.
Is that the same
What
money
was the
that we talked
question?
about?
If this
like
was
2
the
meetings
final
ago,
request,
that we
it
said
would
that
not
we
be
could
enough.
hold that?
So
No,
we,
it is
we
not
just
the
did two
final.
different things at the same time.
They don't
Can,
pay.
can we separate these two? So one is a request from the grant to get another $30,000, is that correct?
No, another, it's two different grants, right?
Yes, it's CDBG and ARC.
Okay.
It's two separate, of course, it's one project, we have two different funding sources, so whenever
We
we,
don't
We
have
don't
that
have
sheet
that
with
in
the
our
figures,
packet.
right?
No,
I didn't have
no,
those.
he has those,
Okay.
yeah, no, no.
Because we were looking at this and the numbers weren't back.
No,
I didn't have the,
no.
I didn't have it to give to you.
So 2 meetings ago, we requested from the grant to have that money deposited into Water Valley's accounts. So
Right.
we have that money, now we're talking about dispersing that to the contractor and the engineer.
yeah, that was the previous request for cash, this is the sixth one.
No, yeah, this is a request to have the money transferred to us.
This is another transfer request.
Right.
Okay.
I
And
think,
we're still not at the end of the grant, yeah.
Okay.
Right.
No.
mhm.
So this request for $90,000, is that cash that we are requesting to have brought into Water Valley, or is it cash that we're asking to give to the contractors at this time?
It's reimbursement, the engineer and the contractor have already done work,
Mhm.
and then they submit their invoices to me, and then I turn around and send them to the Mississippi Development Authority, and they submit the reimbursement to the city, who in turns writes the check to the engineering firm and to the contractor.
So this is the check that Water Valley will be writing to the contractor?
Yes, once the
Okay.
money's deposited into the account, yes.
So we will, at the end of this process, we will have $80,000 left that we haven't paid yet of the 470 total?
No.
I'm showing a balance in the construction budget of $89,189.41.
After this payment.
Yes, but it's a bit tricky because the ARC grant was funded in 2015. The CDBG grant was not funded until 2016. And to try to make a long story short, the ARC grant was funded at a slightly higher grant ratio amount. MDA came back after the CDBG was funded 1 year later and said, you need to follow this grant ratio. So in the end, the city will end up de-obligating about $11,000 of the ARC funds. It'll go back to the state of Mississippi, and that is because the overall cost of the project, for whatever reason, from when it was funded in 2015 to 2016, changed. It actually decreased some.
So how much money will we have left that has not been paid to the contractor that we can hold until the streets are done?
Okay.
Is the question.
Well, there's a retainage of 5% that's held on the contractor out of every single request for cash, including this one. And I can tell you, for the engineer, I'm just going to tell you what's left. For the engineer, this is exact. There's $4,749 left for the engineer to get. On the construction portion, I'm showing $89,189.41, but that is going to be minus that approximately $11,000. So it's going to be about $69,000 roughly that's left for construction, and roughly $4,700 for engineering. And I can email Vivian the exact figures if you want. That way y'all can have them to look at. if that'd be helpful.
Our main concern was there's so much work left to be done, just
Yeah.
as you drive by, for the city to see.
Yeah.
That we'd like to know that they don't get their final check until we've
Right.
done a walkthrough.
Well, and that's the thing, that's right. When the money's deposited into the city's account, they have 3 days to write the checks. But you know, if there is an issue or concern, then I would say the city needs to talk to the contractor about that, you know, prior to getting that point. Okay.
So we'd have that conversation on the last request.
Yeah.
And that's it. I've got it. If, y'all approve these, then I'll talk with you tomorrow and we can go from there.
Okay, we do need a motion for us to request the cash from the grants. Senator makes the motion. Excuse me. Do I have a second? Nicole seconds. All in favor? That's unanimous. All right, good.
If you think of anything else, y'all know how to reach me. Talk with you soon.
Thank you.
Bye.
Chris is actually ready
Hold on.
organized here.
Okay, Kagan, the tax exempt project.
Yes.
Everyone should have a copy of. This.
So this, we talked about this a month ago. This is the program that every town in Mississippi is allowed to set up a program to encourage new development, job creation, by allowing folks that come and invest money in a municipality to slow down the rate that their tax bill goes up. So they can build a new business, or they can improve a business that exists. And every city is allowed to forgive the increase in their tax bill for up to 7 years. And so we have Vicksburg, Cleveland, Natchez, Oxford, Ocean Springs, and Greenwood, Mississippi are the towns that are on a list at the Mississippi Development Authority. If a company is coming to Mississippi or looking to move, they get this list as places that would be a good place to set your business because they're business friendly and they've set up these programs. It's not a way of giving away tax money. It encourages people to increase their tax bill, and then you don't actually hit them with a higher tax bill for an amount of time of your choosing. So we had talked about this, and we had talked about doing, instead of the 7 years, doing 5 years, requiring at least a $25,000 investment to qualify. And we would do a 5-year plan, so every year your tax bill would go up 20% until you're up to your new high assessed value. And Daniel put this in a nice 3-page document. The process that he outlined would be the planning commission would get these proposals. So these would have to be pre-approved. We wouldn't be surprised that a project is coming. So the planning commission would review plans, look at the dollar amounts that were going to be invested in Water Valley, and approve them on a case-by-case basis. And it seemed pretty straightforward. Second to last line, is that an extra and on the last page? Right before as. I wasn't sure. It could have gone either way.
I think it's debatable.
Okay.
Would you like to delete it?
No, no strong feeling. But I thought if Mickey wanted to talk about this, he's worked with other towns that have these programs.
I can say, this particular program, the towns that Kagan gave you, that he got from MBA, that's actually an incomplete list. There are several other Mississippi Main Street towns that are our size that already have something like this. Baldwin, New Albany, Corinth, have this program as well. And you have to look at this as kind of an economic development tool. That's truly what it is. There's not a whole lot, if you're in a small town economic developer like I am, there's not a whole lot of incentive that you can give to either an existing business or an incoming new business that wants to be in your downtown district. Now, if you're an economic developer that's an industrial economic developer, there are plenty of incentives that you can give to whether it's a company like BorgWarner or Windsor, that we've done in the county here. But for small town and small business and downtown, there are very, very few. And this is really a critical one. And what it does, it actually doesn't cost the city any more money. You're already receiving that money. And it gives a slight delay in improvements. And the critical thing on this is that it has to be substantial improvements, and the improvements have to be already done before you're granted this temporary waiver. So I think it's a great thing. A lot of Main Street towns in Mississippi have already done it. And it's one of these small but critical incentives that as an economic developer you can offer existing and incoming businesses. And the thing about it too is that it applies to improvements on real estate. So the improvements that happen here to these businesses, whether the business stays or not, they're building improvements. Those improvements stay in the town. They don't leave. They're not transportable property. It's improvements to immovable properties, real estate.
So basically, Harvey, we've been talking about that as well, so if you purchased a building for $50,000, okay, you're gonna be taxed on that 50,000 base. But then as you make those improvements, if you spend at least another 25,000, you're not taxed on the improvements all at once.
Okay.
Over a 5-year period, we increase your taxes. We're talking about city taxes.
Right.
We're not talking about county or anything else. So,
We're hoping this will trickle up at the county level, but
it would encourage somebody to come in and buy a piece of property and improve it, without getting hit with all that tax burden at one time.
For
I think,
business,
like
business
Mickey said, it's
purposes only.
a great economic development.
yes, it has to be within the downtown. The district that Daniel identified was the historic district, the business district.
Okay.
And so we don't lose any money, we just, in 5 years, our tax roll will be bigger.
Yeah.
And we're just giving the new business time to get its feet under itself.
Okay.
And y'all have the discretion to move it out to the industrial areas as well, like
Yeah.
the industrial park. But that was never brought up, so I didn't mention it.
Oh, well,
It's also within the statute.
I'd like to discuss that, to
Yep.
extend it to the industrial park. Give them the same opportunities for new business to come in, that would be an incentive. The tax abatement program for
Was that,
industry.
would we need to add language for that?
Yeah, you had sent me section 1721-5. You have it handy in your file?
No.
Okay,
Sorry.
because I'm in the same
Send
boat.
it, do you have it?
But I do
If you
remember.
had sent it to me, I would have produced it for you.
I'm likely able to find it if I thumb
It
through
was-
this.
The wording was we just needed to define it,
Okay.
but there was no restriction. We got to pick whatever the geographic area was. If we could include the industrial park. Though I'm not sure, these types of abatements, manufacturing has a whole structure statewide of, that's the ad valorem things that we're constantly doing for Borg Warner.
Right,
And-
and allied, and if you can,
and out,
maybe
yep.
not.
So it may be counterintuitive.
Yeah, sure.
But I thought, let me check the language. I thought at our discretion,
It says, well, it says including any property designated as a state or a national historic landmark.
Oh, here it is.
We just add that.
All right, that's exemption from municipal ad valorem tax for certain structures in central business districts, historic preservation districts, business improvement districts, urban renewal districts, redevelopment districts, or on historic landmarks. Application for exemption, and then it goes through in their description. So the business improvement district would be the industrial park.
Okay. Well, can.
So we could go ahead probably if y'all want to. of
Well,
course,
just an idea.
Pass this amended with adding the language. That way.
I will say that this is the language that
Yeah, you can just add.
the multitude of them used, was this language right here, was the historic preservation district. And so,
but if we can add language that would allow it to apply. Because what I'd like is this to be a tool in Bob Tyler's toolbox when he goes out to meet
Absolutely.
with businesses.
That's right.
You, this has to be run in the paper.
we would, essentially the plan was to adopt it tonight, then it would go into effect 30 days later after we published it one time in the paper.
Okay. So you want to make the motion to adopt it as with the amendments that we talked about, or?
Okay? So I'd make the motion that we adopt this as written with the amendments we talked about to expand the footprint to include the industrial park.
Well, wouldn't Article 1721-5 explain everything that they need to know?
I think the way that I've understood it is whatever we write, we can be more specific, we can't be broader than the state. So what we write has to.
Right. All right, we have a motion, we have a second. Nicole seconds. All in favor? That is unanimous. Thank you. Walter? You were here.
I'm really representing the 200 block. Some of my co-neighbor shopkeepers were going to be here, but Nikki's here. Solidarity. And we wanted to, as we're getting ready for our block party and our renovations on our facade, we're looking at some of the cleaning up our block, and some of the issues we have are really with the street. And there's 3 issues, and 2 of them are storm drains. In front of Yellow Run Studio, there's a storm drain that has one of the grates is broken or missing, and you put your leg through it, and it seems hazardous. In front of the Trustee Diner, there's a storm drain that is so low below the street level that when you park your car there and put it in park and take your foot off the brake, that inch of give that your car has will go down the grate and put your fender on the curb, which is very high there. I think Cinnamon's cracked her fender, her mom's cracked her fender. A lot of people, their first experience at my restaurant is cracking their fender. So we don't know what could be done about that, but we think those are issues. And then the third is that there's a handicap spot all the way down at the end of the block. And where that we feel that handicap place needs to be is right in front of Hair Trends, because that's where a lot of more elderly people are getting out. It gives access to the whole block from the middle of the block. There's already an existing ramp and steps with a handrail. And we're suggesting that we can leave the one at the end of the block, but we're suggesting one be added, or that be moved down to in front of Hair Trends to allow better access to the block.
Hope spoke with me with Hair Trends, and you've spoken with me. And what I've done is talked to Mike about lifting those 2 grates up to the level of the road. It's easy to do, just gotta have time to do it.
Good.
Repair the grate while you're bringing it up to the road level. And he's looked at adding that handicap spot there. We discussed the fact that we don't need it to be van accessible. The one on the end is van accessible.
Right.
The one that we would put in front of, in the middle of the block would not necessarily need to be van accessible, but handicap accessible, because there is the existing ramp and the steps and the handrails there. So Mike's looked at that, and you have anything to add to what you saw?
Looking at it this evening, I would say we need to eliminate, take 2 places, eliminate 3 car spaces and make 2 handicap right there if you want accessory to the handicap ramp that you got right there. You'll have to have one on each side. The center part will be accessible for either side of the vehicle to be able to get out. But now they will lose 2 regular parking spots, actually 3 eliminated, but you'll have 2 handicap there at any time.
Well, if we were to do that, we could make the one at the end non-handicap, or change it up, or just have 3 handicap spaces.
Unless you have something in the future built on that corner, then you have to deal. That's the only way you get up on that end.
We could we could add it back then at that time. If you wanted to. However you want to do it, and with the approval of the board, of course. This is in my district. That's why I've been involved. It's in my board.
We need to look at the cost, and let's say giving up parking spaces,
Yeah, we don't want to give up spaces, but it is.
to do it.
I see people. I see nice little old ladies trying to get up to get their hair did, and it's painful to watch. So if we can make it easier for them.
Right.
Either way the parking is,
Another
it's
big
gonna
one
be
across the
in
street
front
down there by
of
the
the step that's been there,
Right.
for centuries. You can make either 2 or 1. And when you raise the grate up on Main Street, that's still not gonna stop them from bumping the
Well, I didn't bump it. What happened
sidewalk.
was I put it in park, and it just thrusted forward when the tire went down into the hole, which is a different kind of physics dynamic. But
I'll look into it, see if we can work out right.
Is
Do
there,
some, go ahead.
is there a ramp on the second, in the middle of the block as well as,
there's a little ramp and steps and handrail.
so we're just talking about paint, really?
We're talking about paint. That's what Mike said. We'll have to paint it up and put the little
Supposed
handicap
to be designated.
paint
Have
on
to
the
be
ground
changed up, painted to be
Yeah.
legal
with the
wise.
blue paint and the handicap sign.
I'll get-
We'll do some
I'll get the
measuring
mayor.
and look and make sure everything will work. But I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah. Right.
Thanks, Mike.
And your awning looks good, by the way.
Is that the dollar on it? Repurpose, recycle.
The next thing on the agenda is the Allied lease agreement. And I hope everyone has, excuse me, a copy of that. Of course, I'm gonna have to let Daniel handle this, because I met with, Ed Thomas a couple of weeks ago.
I reviewed the email and the request, but I don't
It's
have.
gonna be your big one with a staple on the very bottom, and then the letter that you have right there, those two pieces together.
Of course, it's, we're ending up the 5th year of our 10-year lease with them, which is kind of remarkable. I didn't think it'd been that long. And when I met with them, they're very interested, of course, in extending their lease and maybe even some increased size of the existing structure. A little history there, the city owns that building. The lease actually pays for it, and that was done up front, so the lease would pay it out. First thing I asked him, if we talked about expanding the size of the building, how many jobs I was talking about. And he wouldn't give me a definite answer, but he did share that they were trying to actually buy a competitor to move here also. Told Kagan, I was talking to Kagan about it, he's from New Jersey. And he comes in on the
there
morning,
somewhere.
we had a frost down here, and he comes in in shorts and a t-shirt. And he said, it's 14 inches on the ground up there, so this was warm to him. But we do need to look at extending that lease, and then down the road, get some engineering about cost and monies available if we did choose to expand that building.
From the way I looked at their letter, it looks like they're just wanting to see that y'all are in the general mood, since it will likely be in y'all's term that this is ironed out, that before they try to go looking somewhere else for the end of their term, they want to make sure that y'all are agreeable to the idea of their expansion plans.
So the building is 5 years old, is that right? So we haven't had any maintenance costs. And they're, over the 10 years, they're gonna pay $288,000, and that's what we spent to build it?
They paid a good healthy amount of that up front.
Have they been pretty diligent in paying their
They're right on the lot,
$194,000?
they're
Oh, yeah.
like clockwork.
Right, yeah, very good, very good. We always get theirs.
So at the end of 10 years, they're paying $2,400 a month? That would suddenly be new money to the city because we paid for the building.
Yes,
So any extension would be revenue to the city of $2,400 a month.
that's correct.
That's wonderful.
Now, we can explore the possibilities if we do choose to expand the building, some possibilities of some grant monies or some MDA money or something like that that would help. Yeah, I'm gonna mention to Chris, that's gonna be on the wish list also, and also rural development. Yeah, so, but I think we would need to do some cost estimates for the two different recommendations that he's looking at, and actually look at the lot, see how much we could put down there. His talking with me, he wasn't talking about a lot of extra heating and cooling space. He was looking for storage because in the manufacturing business, if you get an order, you want to be able to fill it in rather than have to manufacture because somebody else may jump ahead of you. So he needs some storage space. They make industrial size filters, and if anybody would like to tour, we can set up a tour sometime. We've been in there once and to actually see what they do.
It's neat.
I'd love to go.
Yeah, they got one of those Columbus deals, something about the helicopter.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
How many employees do they have today?
I think they had 20 when he was here. They fluctuate. He being Mr. Thomas, really bragged on the workforce here, which sometimes we hear a lot of negative about our workforce, but he said compared to New Jersey, his turnover is very small. You know, he brags on them a lot, so. But I'm steady begging him to hire some more. But technology also has kept him from hiring more and more, of course.
So was the addition of 10,000 or 16,000 feet, was that under the same, we would figure out what it cost and they effectively would buy it over time back to the city
He said they would be willing to adjust their rent pay
to cover that?
cover that. I mean, really, it's a no-lose situation for us. Well, like you said a while ago, even at the current rate, 5 more years, we've got a building saved for. We hope they don't leave, but if they left after 10 years, we've got a building.
And that's $30,000 a year.
Yeah, they
revenue
keep
for the city.
paying, they keep paying, so, you know.
That's great. Oh, while we're talking about the concrete pad that's out by Allied, is that part of the city property?
Yes, that's the old bundle phone, yeah, where it
Okay.
went.
I had someone ask me if they could park, because I think some tractor trailers park there, and
I think they parked there.
Is
No
that-
one has ever asked before, they just parked.
someone asked me, and I had no idea if it was private property. So is that still, we just don't want to talk about it?
Yeah. We could get into a liability situation if we
Yeah.
gave them permission, but, you know.
They should not park there.
But, okay.
They also park on some other city properties. But we do need a motion probably to let Daniel go ahead and be exploring this lease. Fred makes a motion, need a second. I heard his second. All in favor? All right. Item number 14 is our electric department write-offs, and we have those from Crystal and itemized, and the total for this quarter is $3,953.06. And again, Herbert, when we say write-offs, they still try to collect this money. It just slides over from the active account into a collection account.
So it's still active, really.
Yeah, it's kind of, Andy, correct me if I'm wrong, it's kind of Tennessee Valley, the way they want us to do this.
Right. We cannot forgive debt. So we've actually keep up with it, and they come back in to apply for service or whatever, that's when we get it. Or if we do send notices out, you know, to try to get it. And sometimes you do, but more than likely, 90-something% of them, when they get ready to reestablish service, that's when they're gonna pay the bill.
So they won't have any electricity until the bill is paid, if it's in their
They've
name,
already been cut
correct?
off, these have all been cut off.
Okay.
Do we ever publish these in the paper, the way we do tax rolls? I don't know how effective that is.
Most of the time, correct me if I'm wrong, most of the time these people have moved out of the city somewhere else. And when they want to come back and hook up again under their name, that's when we collect.
And they're
The
making
remainder
it
of the debt.
harder and harder. It used to be that we could stop them from coming back moving in with somebody because that person would have to assess the responsibility for the bill because it's illegal for them to live on our lines. But Brandon Presley has changed that now, so we have to. You got to get them trying to put it in their name. So, yeah, most of the time, most of these are accounts that people just doesn't leave town overnight, for the most part.
Okay. So we do need a motion to have these write-offs in the amount of $3,953.06. Nicole makes that motion. Kagan seconds. All in favor? That is unanimous. Okay, item number 15 is time for us to advertise for the Westlake water tank painting, advertise for bids. Again, it is grant monies. We're rehabbing the water tank on West Lee Street. So we do need to have a motion to advertise for these bids.
This is,
Fred makes that motion. Second. Kagan seconds. Any discussion on this?
did we complete the one that we approved in the fall? Or is
This is, we approved applying for the grants and the engineering, and now it's time to get a contractor to bid to do the job. It's a slow step.
Tell them when we've got to open them.
Yeah,
I think that's a problem.
We will have to have a special meeting, really get that out to open these bids, because the timeline that the grant requires to, so it will be on May the 4th at 10 a.m. We'll have to open the bids, so put that on your calendar. Will be a special meeting, notice will be given ahead of time, but I'm making that known right now also. So I do need a motion to advertise. We have that. We had that. Sorry. All in favor? Mr. Willie Fox? Item number 16, in fact.
Good afternoon. Don't look at me like that. I might have something else to say tonight. But anyway, all my life I keep my treehouse deposit up until January. I didn't know they had sent me a check. It did never come to me. They seen it hadn't been signed if they sent it. They sent me another on the 14th. They took my deposit down because of $25. I told them to turn the lights on. They told me I had to put up $25 before they could cut it on. I said, for $25, I'm talking over the phone, go ahead and put it, turn the lights on, just charge $25 to my light bill. No, we can't do that, you got to come pay. Okay. Next thing I know, this check here for $99.54 come in the mail. Now, I done forgot how much it costs now to turn it back on, but he would have to tell you, he told me something I had never heard before. What, how could you take my deposit down? Not just talking to you, Mayor, but I want to know. How can you take my deposit down, then for it to be turned back on, it's gonna cost $200 or $300? And I didn't owe nothing.
Y'all see the documentation on everything?
You got the documentation on
Yeah,
there,
we have the documentation from the electric department.
If you look
Says
at it,
holding deposit per customer request, and then the deposit was applied December 17th.
When was it applied?
December 17th,
For what year?
2017.
2017, and then the check was sent. Again, you said you didn't get that check, but we reissued a check for the difference between your deposit and what you owed.
How much did I owe?
$25.46.
See what I'm talking about? I owe this for nothing. $25 ain't no money.
Yeah. Well, I understand, but the policy is the city policy, and we can't make an exception for me, you, or anyone else. I've had other requests in the last several months on this type of policy, and I simply cannot change policy. I have to honor the policy, and I've had to do that several times. People have called and said, electricity is going to be cut off, and if they don't have a medical reason or something that falls under
My
state
leg twisted
statute.
already off, man.
And, I mean, I've
My
had,
leg twisted. I got 3 deposits. 3 different buildings with deposit. Had it. He claimed the one on the snack bar is ate up somehow. I don't know what's
yeah.
going on.
Well, the only one we have any documentation on is what you call your tree house.
No, by the way, who is over Mr. Andy Howell? Because he told, I'm talking about in authority, I got pictures here where he let his man call me a hen. You didn't know that, did you? No, you
that would,
don't.
well,
Just in here, you see when they hit my house there?
yeah, that would be way back.
You see this?
different
No,
hours.
it ain't that way back. Couple
Well,
months
none of
before
the,
the
none
mayor
of the,
left.
Mr. White be the only one that was even on the board at that time.
Mr. Hall, no.
But,
You wanna see the picture?
well, the picture doesn't say what anybody said, I mean.
But this the one said. He the one was driving that truck when it hit it, and I took the picture, and that's when he jumped out.
Were
and
you,
started
were you
driving.
compensated for your house, Mr.
I wasn't,
Fox?
I wasn't compensated for the things
Were you
come out of your mind.
compensated for your house?
Then he let me know, listen here, Mayor, he let me know that, hey, he just trying to do us a favor. He don't have to be here. He own, him and his daddy own 2,500 acres in Alabama. And he down here trying.
Let's don't get into personality.
That's right.
Let's go back and deal with the one that's
Sure
in front
is.
of us right now,
I'm
okay?
letting you know.
So the deposit rates did go up. and that
Our
was-
deposit rate's changed.
That was,
But how can it go up on this and the deposit was already there?
so this happened to me too, because on the houses, they went up to 350,
375.
375.
and on businesses, they went up to 500.
That would be fine.
Which stinks, and I've had some rental properties that a tenant has moved out. I wasn't on top of it. And to show it to somebody, I need to be able to turn the lights on. Even if it's only for a few months while I'm waiting for the next tenant. And it's cost me $500. When 2 years ago, I had a rolling, the same situation. I had a rolling deposit, and at that time it was $250, I think, for businesses on Main Street. And Crystal was very nice, and I tried to say with a smile, but it's me, and she said, nope. And it's the same. So I think the question is, do we believe that everybody needs to be treated the same or not?
There is a difference here, sir. My deposit was up. You were trying to put one up. There
No.
is a difference.
What, your deposit was up, but there
He
was a
took my
bill, there was a
deposit
bill owed that did not get paid. So the policy is, if deposit covers the
But where that
bill,
$25 come from? Because I paid it up before I had to shut down to a Betty Buford. Where did the $25 come from in your get-go?
that was
That's what I'm trying
due,
to tell you.
it was due to usage, I mean, it's all
Mr.
I'm
Mayor,
saying.
there was a $25.46 charge in April.
For what?
That was what was remaining on it, and we sent you, I remember the conversation way back. And we asked you about paying, you said, when I get ready to turn it back on, I'll settle up. We had sent you a door knocker on it, Mr. Fox.
I don't live over
The
that, brother.
thing, listen, the thing is, we went all the way to just like we had to do tonight with these bills at the end of the certain section to write off. You hadn't paid it. That's why when it got to the end of it, we have to apply the deposits. These accounts that we did tonight, we're applying the that is company policy and law. We have to do that.
Sir, you can talk much as you want, but I know this is not right. And
Okay,
I know
well-
who you are.
Well,
I'm
again,
through
we're
with
not,
it.
okay.
And, I
We're not
ask you
getting-
one thing, Mr. Mayor, and I'm out of here.
Okay.
I know you haven't put no dirt around that house yet, over there.
At the,
They hauled into the brush dump up there, on the brush dump site. They pushed dirt today.
I'm talking about around, he know where the dirt go every, spring, keep them snakes out of it.
okay, we'll go over there and
Mr.
take a look
Springer,
at
no.
that then.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
I look like I'm gonna have to visit you in your office and get this straight out.
Okay.
I know something wrong here. Y'all have a good night.
Okay, Andy, you want to address the fee change we're talking about?
Yes.
This item number 17.
We've got some, the City of Water Valley, I think y'all got the printout, it shows on there with the Housing Authority. Years ago, they set it up for a $10 a month service fee for electricity and water, a temporary. If they called in to turn on, to clean up an apartment, or somebody went out. Everybody else is paying $20 every 2 weeks, plus the usage, which they do play the usage. I'm requesting that we go up to $20 a month. I mean, we're back and forth at that place with these apartments. And it's really, we're losing money doing it. And we're not trying to get rich off of it, but I mean, times have changed. This has been in place, I couldn't tell you, way before my time. So I'm requesting that we go up to $20 a month on each one of the services. If y'all are in agreement with it, instead of $10 a month. And that's still, being in their housing authority and government agency, I still give them a better deal than $20 every 2 weeks. So I think that's reasonable.
Any questions for Andy on this?
So this is while they're floating a property between residents?
Yeah. And sometimes, you know, they turn it over sometimes in a week. A lot of times it's 2 weeks or more. And a lot of times, you know, they'll have 4 or 5 of them going at one time. So
Cost some manpower, that,
just back and forth, and we ran into a problem kind of dealing with it years back. They called, don't turn the water on now. Well, it's their responsibility to be there to make sure. We've had some flooded apartments before, and guess who they're looking at then? So I'm requesting that we do that. And also, if you see down there at the bottom, we have what we call a connection fee. We would like to change that to a service fee. When we tell people we're coming out for a connection fee on something, well, your wire's already hooked up, you ain't got to connect nothing. And they're getting confused about it. And we would just like to, if we did it as a service fee, it would be a lot simpler and I think clearer for customers and stuff to understand. So I'd like to change the naming of that. And that's a $50, I mean, across the board for anybody when we do that.
Does that take a changing the label? Does that take a board decision?
Well, I'm gonna change it in my policies, and that's where I would think I would need it to amend my policies, just to say for that, if that's okay with y'all.
Well, that part, changing from connection fee to service fee, sounds fine.
Okay.
However, there are 4 new board members here who don't know what the contract is and the relationship between the City of Water Valley and the Housing Authority. I'm just now learning a little bit more about what that relationship is, and can we speak for their board through our board? And I think that we need to get a copy of the contract. We get a lump sum of money every year. I don't know what it's for. So I would like to do a little more research about whose authority is needed to make this change.
The money's in lieu of taxes.
Okay. So I've
Federal
also been told,
government's
for example, removing a vehicle from the side of the road, our police department can't, Tony's gone, our police department can't sticker it and remove it because it's Federal Housing Authority property.
Mm-hmm.
So
Really?
this opens a can of worms of questions that I've had since I've been on the board is, what is our relationship? That's a federal program. We're a municipality.
Right.
And what is the relationship between the 2 boards and how that is actually divided up and whose authority does this take? Is it ours? Is it their board? You know, and what our contract is. So I want to know what
I understand.
I want to learn the whole thing about what our responsibility is for the housing authority, what the housing authority's own responsibility is for. I've been told that they're supposed to police themselves, but we do it anyway. So there's some federal things that I need to learn about
Okay.
as a board member to know.
Not to change it yet, but where you, in that middle paragraph there, if y'all see the electric department, they put in the surveillance system up there, and it is pretty regular, resetting those cameras for them. We have to go up with a bucket truck, raise up, and reset them. I don't have time to be running back and forth. We do it as a,
Why do they have to be reset? What
they're
happens?
having problems, something about their camera system. I have no idea. You need to turn the power off on them and turn them back on. And that's their stuff. But I'm wanting to assess a charge to that if we're gonna keep going up there because, and we try to go, you know, when they called us that day, last week they called us, we was busy and stuff. We didn't get up there until 2 days later.
How often does that happen? I've seen it happen a couple times a week, at least once a week, and then sometimes you might go 2 weeks and not do it, and then you'll get a call, hey, I hate to bother you. And and I understand they got problems, yeah, and I try to help them all I can. But I can't be running trucks back and forth all the time, or I can, but I would like to be able to, set up some type of an agreement with them, maybe when you find this stuff out.
Yeah,
Are we obligated, are we not?
Right.
And
Whose responsibility is it? Yeah.
When we sell them power and water.
Right. Okay.
So if you were to put a dollar figure on that charge, have you got that far yet, Andy?
I've thought about it, if I didn't do nothing but charge them $25 a trip.
Yeah, I mean, it's other costs to use your equipment.
Bucket and
your
stuff. They had
employees,
mentioned to me,
your gas.
Johnny Joe had mentioned to me, they were gonna look around, try to find a bucket truck. I don't want them up in the air around nothing of mine.
Yeah.
I mean, I told him, I said, that would be wasteful, let us try to help you out. Well, I shouldn't have never said that when I found out what it ran into, how many trips, but like I said, I don't mind helping them. But then again, I got reservations. I mean, those are our poles, so they don't need to be up there on them, because that could just fall back to a reliability to us,
But did they request the use of the poles?
Oh, yeah, we had to set some
cleared
poles.
that and-
Yeah,
okay.
they did all that.
It sounds like monitoring how many times you go up there, billing. If we're going to have a conversation between the two entities, I would recommend a service contract of some sort. That's just a flat, because your folks will have to be able to go if they're needed.
Well, the thing is, I understand what you're saying, they'll have to go, but like what we ran into last week, we were having troubles and stuff. I'm not breaking off to go set a camera when I got lights out somewhere. That's my priority.
Can
I mean,
you give us a number on how many times you've been called since the cameras have been installed?
I could go back and look. I'm gonna say, if you average it out, we've been up there once a week. Because sometimes you'll go several times in a week into more than one location. So
Were they put up in the middle of last year? Was
I
it
think
summer of last year?
somewhere back then, I don't know.
So it
where
hasn't been a
was.
full year.
And they may just be going through a glitch right now with some bugs and get it worked out, hopefully. That's all of that. There was one other thing that I need to mention to y'all. I had spoke to Mr. Fred about it. We've gone to the one board meeting now, and we had it lined up to meet with Chris Mitchell, the consultant that I wanted to speak to, and we had it lined up where it wasn't gonna cost us nothing for him to come in and see us.
He's coming this month, right?
It's the 17th.
We still will meet twice this month.
Okay, good deal. I didn't know if it was a good deal, because I was gonna say, can y'all please come in and meet this man at
Yeah,
6:30?
we still
Good.
will have to meet.
Okay, then that covers it.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank y'all.
Do we want to go ahead and just let him change from connection fee to service fee, his policy? And does that require a motion, or just let him? Well, this is just changing his terminology from connection fee to service fee. Yeah. I suppose we need to go ahead and just have a motion just to change the terminology. So Nicole makes that motion, Herbie seconds, all in favor of that? Okay, so we'll do that, we'll address the rest of it at another time. Okay. On the grass cutting bids, it did not get in the paper last week.
I apologize, Mayor. That was my fault.
Well, you had to cut all the grass.
Well, I've got a zero turn I bought from Joey a couple of years ago, and if I need to, I've got to cut some.
Anyway, because of that, we had to move our deadline to accept bids, so which means the date that we open the bids will be moved back also. So we need a motion to, again, have a short special meeting on April 27th at 5 o'clock to open those bids.
What are the grass pit cutting consist of? The whole, bid on the whole city-wise or?
No, it's per hour bid on entryways and the ones that we've always cut and some weed eating, separate bids per hour, and we can determine what areas need to be cut.
Kind of like what we've done in the past?
Is what we've done in the past, that's right.
We have specific areas already laid out that we're going to be
Yes,
bidding on.
in the past, we've had two different crews that did it, and one crew did the entryways, Frosting Drive, 32, you know, South Main, and one did the side streets, and, yeah, Town Creek, things like that. And it worked good in the past because these crews had done it. They knew where they were supposed to cut. They knew whose yard not to cut, not to go across the sidewalk in certain areas. Because it may look like it needed cutting, the homeowner said that's, even though it was city, they said, no, I'll maintain this. Things like that. So I do need a motion that we extend that by a week. Somebody makes a motion. Go second. All in favor? And that's unanimous. Along those lines, we may, with y'all's permission, have to go ahead and get some grass cut between now and then because it's starting to grow. I could contact one of the guys that have been doing it and just, if you have an area in your ward you think that needs some attention, you know, I know the weeds are growing faster than the grass right now. And if we're asking everybody else to keep theirs clean, we need to make sure the city's keeping theirs.
It's true.
We know the water towers. We need to
Yeah,
do a good job under those.
and Michael's gonna do the water tower. Make sure they get.
Would that be under the past rate?
Yeah, and it would, because we had the budget, it's in the budget item.
I'd move that we authorize you to do that.
Okay, we have a motion, Kay, and authorize me to give one of the crews, if we need to cut some side areas. Have a motion, we need a second. Sit in a second. All in favor? And that is unanimous. Okay, anything else from the board that looks like it completes the agenda?
We had the SCAA addition.
Oh, yeah. Daniel, I forgot to write it down. Go ahead and just restate that.
The terms that we submitted to them in February, they said they're agreeable to, or was it March? But regardless, they're agreeable to what we submitted to them, which was a flat $1,000 a month, in addition to us paying utilities for both facilities and them to maintain so many dogs, and above that, we would pay them the amount per dog for not to exceed so many days. And so really all I needed from y'all is permission to go ahead and meet with them and iron out. But as Cinnamon insinuated earlier, that we had in our past meeting talked about getting into the particulars of some of the terms and the policies in which the city would put in place, because right now we're kind of not necessarily a fluid situation as to policies on the dog, but some people know about what the official policy is and other people are guessing, I guess is the short of it.
So were we talking about the handoff process from the city to Second Trans?
And who has authority?
I think we were targeting the simplest, get picked up, picture form, handed off, but we need something that everyone follows.
This kind of ties into it, but it also goes into, we're underneath an old dog leash ordinance, and there was considerable amount of work put towards one several years ago that was never put into place, but yeah, I mean, you could do it at the same time, or if
Okay, all right. Since we've made the proposal then, I think we would go ahead and accept their acceptance of it. And then we do need to address the policies of who has the authority and of course, y'all have heard my opinion, I think everybody else has. Our dog catcher, our police department, they have no authority to go and pick up these dogs themselves. Because, again,
Well, if they do, it's on their own dime.
it's on their own dime.
Which at this point, they're managing their own funds.
Right.
So they can do that.
I wrote some notes down just before I walked in. For the dog catcher, we talked about training for vicious dogs and things like that. Do we continue to want to make Mike, come out and do that? Do we want to find another dog catcher or an animal control officer? I've been told that those are two different things. I didn't know that there was a difference. One goes out and catches dogs, and the other one is trained and certified, and they go to this, training and stuff like that. And I told them if you could find a man that would go and do all those certifications, or
Person.
woman, person, individual, that's willing to go out and get that training, and that would be great. Let us know who it is. But I'm not sure what the rate for the past dog catcher was per hour or per, how are they even
It's
paid?
$5 per dog.
But is Mike getting paid $5 per dog, or is he getting paid his hourly wage to come out? So, he's having to leave his house at all times of the day or night to come out, and, he's, he is. I think he's overburdened with all the hats that he has to wear for the city. So,
Plus, it was a $50 expense every 2 weeks that we're on that $5 per dog.
okay, so are we doing
Expense
that?
regardless.
We're
No.
doing that now?
No.
Okay. So what's happening is, we've got a department head that's having to go out and do a job that somebody else could possibly do for a different monetary amount, and take some strain off of Mike. Have training, we need to talk to the police department and see what the policy and procedure is going to be with the beginning of a call, when it comes into dispatch. What is the procedure? We discussed this in our last meeting. About,
Yeah.
1, 2, 3, you're gonna do it the same way every time.
I think
So we
we-
need to get with him on that.
I think we need to separate the two issues, okay? We have the proposal to them, and they're accepting our proposal. Then we need to adopt a policy or job qualification for a catcher, if we want to advertise that. That's two separate issues. So let's deal with the issue of them accepting our proposal to them. And then let's brainstorm or whatever, come up, what we need to do from our end as far as who has the authority to go pick up an animal, and do we want to separate and hire that separate person for that? They're two different issues, the way I see it. Okay. So I would entertain a motion to let Daniel go ahead and enter into that agreement. Kagan makes that motion. Cole seconds. All in favor of that? That's unanimous. So Daniel, that's.
We already have a check-in form, don't we?
Yes.
When we take in a
for
dog?
the chief.
I don't have all that.
Does Chief still have that check-in form for dogs, Mike? Or, I know you've been making pictures of one you picked up.
Yes, I make pictures and bring them to Vivian, and she posts it on the wall or what.
Yeah.
Most of the call comes from the chief there, or the police department, they'll call and say we've got, a biting situation anyway, so I will go pick that, get them out in that situation there, or they'll call after hours or just whenever, and I'll try to assist everything, pick them up. Then I'll call the officers, make their report. I take the dog, and then I give them a second chance and make arrangements for somebody to meet us out there to take the dog in.
Can I ask some questions?
Sure.
Well, is there so between y'all, or is there any policy written down for you guys?
Only the city dog ordinance.
Okay, so the leash.
I haven't seen it. I mean,
There's a protocol of how we respond to picking up dogs that's posted up in a police station. That's mostly for the officers
As
when they
to,
respond to calls.
as to the city ordinance that exists right now, I mean, do we have, are we registering the dogs and doing all this that it entails?
When I'm aware of them, they've been picked up and they have an impound fee, I make about a registration fee of $5, get a tag.
But we do need a form, a standard form, whether Mike picks it up or a police officer is involved. But that form is turned in, filled out, we know exactly where that dog came from and everything
But if-
on that form.
If we have a form, a city employee picks up a dog, we can figure out who the right person is, but it seems like it's 3 steps. Pick up a dog, fill out the form, and hand the dog over and get that form stamped and copied, and everybody takes their copy, and then we're done.
That's right.
Can we include something that cut and dry?
Yeah, I could make some of this just a page.
Shouldn't that be included in the dog ordinance that we have now? Because what I read in the dog ordinance, it's pretty old. It needs to be updated and everything added to that what we do in the modern day era.
I agree with you, but I like the mayor's suggestion that we iron out the contractual agreement that we have with SCAA, and with the SCAA, include the form, and then as a second matter, have our
Policy and
ordinance.
procedure
Yeah.
and employee and job description.
If you could probably reprint that ordinance that was worked on very hard a few years ago, that
Is it really long?
disappeared.
Yeah, of course it is.
But,
To our credit, we take these very long ordinances from other municipalities, and we just try to take the best pieces, and sometimes we just are so
Exuberant?
thank you that we just keep taking the best pieces of all kinds of ordinances until we have something that sometimes is inordinately long.
Is there anything in there about picking up after your pets?
No, not that I'm aware of. It's just, it mainly focuses on vicious dogs.
Vicious dog, leash law.
And the identity of a vicious dog and its responsibility to others once it's identified. and what have you.
And everyone with a dog, actually under old ordinance, you're supposed to come down City Hall and register and all that. Yeah.
But that one has been adopted. If you're talking about
Supposed to
a
register.
No, that's the
revision
old
to
one, yeah.
that, you said that never was.
Their
adopted.
firm spent a lot of time writing one. And, it, whatever reason, it never made it out. But we do need to revisit that a lot,
So we
but get the
have
form,
one
we have that old one,
now.
yeah, we have that
Yeah.
old
And
one.
the one that you guys worked on never made it
Right.
to fruition.
Right.
So would you like to email to Vivian and she can disperse to us, or you could
I
send
can
out
just
that?
email directly, yes.
Email directly, and
Yeah.
we can review that and see what we wanna do with it.
And
So you don't have to start from scratch.
And I would encourage anybody who has notes, obviously I won't be working on this for the next week or so, but if y'all have ideas or notes that y'all want to forward to me individually, because what I'll do, so what I'm suggesting is you email me directly, not to each other, ideas that you have about this, and then I'll compile what I think is a good agreement to submit to the whole board as a whole at the next meeting.
Yeah. Anything else from the board?
I do have something else. So we have a full board. We had a discussion in our last meeting about the frequency of our meetings, and we were missing by 20 minutes our newest board member. So I think as of our last discussion of 1 versus 2 meetings a month, we were split. So I'm very interested to hear Herbie's thoughts on how frequently we should meet.
Well, at this time, I feel like that as we have the new board members that we have here now, that we need to take a little bit more time to actually digest what we're being given to take. So, twice a month is a little much for me at this time until we get a little bit more acclimated into what we're doing. So my feelings is that one per month is substantial at this time. Now, if we do need a special session, I'm in all agreement for that.
And for your information, any 2 board members can call a special meeting. just under the statutes, 3 hours notice, and the mayor can call one also. So if there is something, yes.
Well, as our dockets increase, you know, and me personally, I see more that we need to do. I am all for getting it done, don't get me wrong, but at this time, this is the way I feel.
Okay, I think that completes our agenda.
Speaking of which, I mean, do y'all want to
Go- yeah, go
adopt
forward.
it and then publish it again and then it go into effect May 4th?
Yes. Yeah, we voted on it last time, so.
Well, we have to, it has to be in writing.
Reduced to writing, just like
Yeah.
every other time.
So we have to,
Procedure.
we have to re-vote on it today, and I apologize, I should have emailed this out to everybody. But if anybody would like to read it, here it is, but it simply just reverts it back to one meeting a month. We don't have to read it unless I'm requested to.
Okay. So I need a motion that we revert back to the old ordinance of one meeting a month, and that would take place May and May, which means we'll still meet 2 times this month. So I need a motion to that effect. Fred makes that motion. Do we have a second? Nicole seconds. All in favor of going back to the one meeting a month?
Nicole?
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm writing.
Fred,
Sorry.
Nicole, Herbie, yes, all opposed? Sam and Kagan opposed. Carries, so has to be run in the paper.
Yes, that's right.
Daniel will take care of that. Okay, looks like we have a matter for executive session, so get the wording right.
Somebody like to make a motion to enter into a determination whether to go into executive session?
Thank you. Kagan makes that motion. We need a second for that. Send them a second, all in favor? Okay, we're going to determine whether we have a
Closed determination.
closed determination to see if we have a executive session. Thank you.